From Philadelphia, a 911 call was made claiming that a child had fallen out of a window. But when the paramedics got there, this was false. The godmother of the child claimed the child fell down the stairs. Eh? What's going on? You see, Nadira Batson was the godmother. She was given the boy, the victim, Jaquinn Brewton, by his own mother. Yes, his mother Ashley gave her son to Nadira. I'm going to explain to you why. You see, in March of 2011, Ashley and her other children were moving into a shelter. Later, Ashley and Nadira had a fight over the legal custody of Jaquinn, and Ashley last spoke to her son Jaquinn in May of 2011 and did not see him again until his hospitalization in 2013. Now, Marcus King, who was the boyfriend of Nadira, they started dating in 2009 and they moved in together shortly. During this time, he briefly met Ashley, the mother of Jaquinn. Jaquinn was Nadira's godson, and for a time, Nadira and Marcus lived with Ashley and all her children. Now, in January of 2011, when Nadira and Marcus had moved to Chestnut Street, Jaquinn moved with them. At that time, he was 3 years old. And what a beautiful boy he is, huh? Unfortunately, at that time, and until his death, Jaquinn Brewton had a limited vocabulary of approximately 10 to 30 words and called everyone, including Marcus and Nadira, by the name Mum. You see, Marcus acknowledged that during the months when Ashley lived with him and Nadira, he occasionally put his hands on the child. Wow, you classless bastard. He also claimed he saw Nadira, Jaquinn, almost daily. Wow. What a classless cow. She would do this in response to Jaquinn touching things that he was not supposed to touch. Jaquinn was not potty trained when he came to live with Nadira, so she would hurt him in order to punish failures to use his toilet trainer. In fact, on a few occasions, Marcus intervened to stop the abuse, which he thought were excessive. I agree with him. Now, Marcus claimed that he noticed burns on Jaquinn's feet and purchased burn cream and gauze to treat him. Marcus and Nadira discussed taking him to the hospital for his foot burns, but they were afraid that they might be arrested if they did so. Wait, why would you be afraid? What did you do to this child? Now, 1 or 2 months later, when Jaquinn missed his toilet trainer and defecated onto the floor, Nadira burned his with a blowtorch that Marcus had brought home from his job. Yes, the kid made a mistake while going to the potty, which is completely fine. My son does it all the time. But she literally got a blowtorch and burned him. That's heartbreaking. So Marcus grabbed Jaquinn, took him to the bathroom, running cold water over his buttocks. When he did so, layers of skin came off in the flow of the water. Marcus dressed this wound with burn cream and gauze. Now, the night before Jaquinn was taken to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, also known as CHOP, in June 2011, Jaquinn had trouble getting to sleep and he kept getting out of his bed. So what did Nadira do? She got out of her bed, she starts shouting at him, she abuses him and forces him to go to sleep. Now, one of the neighbors who lived in the apartment building at the time when Jaquinn was under Nadira's care, they said that the building had shared bathrooms and kitchen areas, and he resided in the room next to Nadira's, right? And he said that on several occasions he heard Nadira refer to Jaquinn as little motherfucker. In the weeks before Jaquinn's death, there were several midday episodes which he would hear loud music from Nadira's room, and then underneath the music he could hear lashes and yelling and crying. He also heard Nadira say, "Move your hands," as well as "Stop crying, shut up, sit still." These episodes would occur approximately 4 times a week and lasted for approximately 1 hour each. God, I hate this woman. And at one point, the neighbor's girlfriend was with him in his room during one of these episodes. And of course, there was loud music, screaming, crying, and the sound of lashes made her upset. So then she forced the neighbor, her boyfriend, to go to Nadira's house, knock on the door. And when Nadira answered, he said, "Look, this has been going on for a while. Turn the music off." And at that moment, she realized, what am I doing? So she stopped. In fact, on a similar occasion, the neighbor's door was cracked, and through this little crack, he could see Nadira and Jaquinn walking to the communal bathroom. And at that time, he could hear Nadira on the phone saying, "This little motherfucker shitting the bed." You know something? When I hear parents refer to their children with profanity, it breaks my heart. Show some respect. That's a child. So when the neighbor saw this through, his cracked door, he was troubled by this. So he looked at the Department of Human Services, known as DHS. He went to their website and he learned how to make an anonymous tip about what he suspected was child abuse. He also sent a text message to his landlord in hopes that he might be able to intervene and end the abuse. In the text message he wrote, "Look, I'm not trying to get involved in other people's business, but this woman abuses her kid non-stop, and this shit just doesn't seem healthy to me." Now, if we go on to the incident itself, in 2011, at approximately 1 a.m., Lieutenant Dwayne Culbrath of the Philadelphia Fire Department, he was assigned to respond to an emergency call that a child had fallen down the stairs on Chestnut Street in Philadelphia. Now, when Culbrath arrived, he went to Nadira's room on the 4th floor of the apartment building, where he saw 3-year-old Jaquinn Brewton. He was dressed only in a diaper, who had no vital signs and appeared to be deceased. Culbrath spoke with Nadira, who told him that she had seen Jaquinn fall down the stairs, stand up, and then slump against the wall. Culbrath saw that Jaquinn had multiple dark markings on his torso and arms. Jaquinn then went on to spend 2 weeks in the hospital, and he died from his wounds. Philadelphia police officer Tamika Terry, who was of the Special Victims Unit, took a statement from Nadira, in which Nadira told her that Quinn had injured himself by falling down a flight of stairs, and that he maybe burnt his feet by stepping into a hot bath. Just egregious lies. So then you had Christine Biggie. She was a trauma nurse practitioner of the CHOP, the Children's Hospital in Philadelphia. She gave expert testimony as to her treatment of Jaquinn when he came to the emergency room. So she noticed that there were multiple bruises and cuts and skin marks all over his face and body. She also took pictures of his body, including detailed, extremely detailed photographs of his numerous wounds as a part of her compilation of his medical records. And she noted that his wounds were at various stages of healing. Some were scars and some were open wounds or bruises. Now, Jaquinn's body was very lean and his abdomen was swollen and distended. He had several injuries which were partially healed, where it appeared that he was missing small pieces of skin. She observed a burn on Jaquinn's buttocks, and by its state of healing estimated that it was around 1 week old. The burn did not appear to be from a hot object, which would leave a defined shape or imprint, or a hot liquid, which would leave splash marks that would appear as dots around the greater area of the burn. She determined that it was likely caused by a flame. She also saw that on both of Jaquinn's feet, she observed healed second-degree burns caused by a hot liquid, with splash marks around the periphery of the burn area and on his lower legs. The tops of his feet were burned, but the bottoms were uninjured. And this is important because this is consistent not with stepping into a hot tub. If you step onto a hot tub, the sole of your feet would show some burn marks too, right? And this is important because Nadira said that it was spilled hot liquid in the bathroom that made this happen. Christine described Jaquinn's pancreas injury as a laceration following severe bruising, and he had a similar wound to his spleen. She asked Nadira about the injuries to Jaquinn's feet, and she told her that Jaquinn had been taken to another local hospital for treatment of these burns. And Nadira explained that Jaquinn had burned his buttocks by sitting on a hot blowtorch. When asked if she meant a lighter, she again insisted, no, it was a blowtorch. You see how she's manipulating the story? No, it wasn't Marcus that did it, it was Jaquinn that sat on it himself. More lies. Nadira also told Christine that Jaquinn had thrown up green vomit the prior week. Christine noted that this was consistent with a serious pancreas injury, which can cause bile to show up in the injured person's vomit. Nadira also said that Jaquinn had not had much of an appetite, and in the preceding weeks, which was also consistent with a pancreatic injury. Now we have Dr. Aaron Rosen. He was an associate medical examiner for the city of Philadelphia. He also gave expert testimony as to the autopsy he performed on Jaquinn. He said, as part of his forensic investigation, he reviewed hospital records from his stay in Philadelphia when he was finally pronounced dead, and Dr. Rosen noted several unshaped scars on the body. He also reviewed hospital x-ray results that indicated a potential healing fracture in Jaquinn's lower left arm. You see, Dr. Rosen explained that pancreatic injuries, such as the one Jaquinn suffered, can cause damage to the other abdominal organs. You see, when pancreatic fluids leak into the abdomen, they can also cause hypotension and cardiocirculatory impairment, which can rob other organs of necessary bloodborne oxygen. And in response, the brain vasodilates, calling for more blood, becomes swollen with blood that's deoxygenated. I don't know what that means. That's what the autopsy report said. But this explained the swelling in his brain when he died. Dr. Rosen also described a linear pattern scarring on Jaquinn's legs and left arm, consistent with application of the metal tines of a comb that was found in their residence. So in other words, they got a comb and scratched his arm so deep. Now what's important is that he also didn't see any signs of an immersion burn, something like stepping onto really hot water, particularly a bathtub. The burn scars on the top of Jaquinn's feet were instead consistent with the pouring of scalding liquid on the top of the feet. The healing fracture to Jaquinn's left arm was consistent with reaching out to stop a fall. And numerous of Jaquinn's internal organs, including his pancreas, left adrenal gland and liver, showed fibrosis consistent with a rupture to the pancreas that causes enzymes to escape into the abdominal cavity and irritate the organs in that cavity. What the fuck did they do to this boy? But it gets worse. You see, Dr. Rosen found that the injury to his pancreas was not consistent with the fall down to the stairs. Instead, it was consistent with the focused and concentrated to the area. Like, you know, when a child falls into a handlebar when riding a bike, or when another person strikes a child in the abdomen, either with a hand or a hard object. So he concluded that his wounds in the middle by his abdomen were deliberate by someone else. Now, because the pancreas is in the middle of the body, it is not typically injured in this directed way when a person falls down the stairs. You see, stairs falls tend to cause injuries to the head and extremities of the body rather than the middle. The same doctor determined that the cause of Jaquinn's death was blunt impact trauma and the manner of death was homicide. So in July 2011, Detective Ronald Sirianni tested the hot water temperature in the bathroom next to Nadira's room and found that when he ran only the sink's hot water for 15 to 20 seconds, the water temperature was 132 degrees Fahrenheit, and it did not burn his hand when he put his hand in it. He tested the bathtub in the same fashion, and that was 109 degrees. Also, when they went through her house, they recovered several items, including several lighters and a flexible necked torch. And during all of this, Police Captain James Clark, he said that the little boy took all the pain he could until he couldn't take it anymore and succumbed to his injuries. He said that it's one of the saddest cases he's ever seen. He's been on the force for 22 years, and this is one of the saddest he's seen. He said he saw all the pictures and it was heartbreaking. Now, in the trial itself, Nadira was in court sitting next to her lawyer, while the district attorney, Bridget Kern, told the court about how she and her boyfriend Marcus had abused Jaquinn by repeatedly attacking him and burning him until he fell to a coma and died. She said he was small and he was frail and he was brave. He didn't have that many words, but he could feel pain, and he did. And in the trial, it had only been a few weeks since Jaquinn had died that Nadira rejected a plea offer. This would have allowed her to walk free, serving 30 to 60 years. But on the table was life without parole. Marcus had already pled guilty to third-degree murder and was set to testify against Nadira for a reduced sentence. Bridget Kern told the court about how the abuse of this child had begun almost immediately. She said fists were used as well as hot water, belts, shoes, and hairbrushes. Bridget said that the child had been abused from head to toe. He then pointed to Marcus's defense attorney, Lee Mandel, and asked Marcus to stand up and wanted to see how big Marcus was. Marcus was actually 6'7", and she said, "Look at Marcus King. He's huge. Then you tell me if you think he's the one that inflicted these fatal wounds to this child. As in, Marcus was the main culprit, not Nadera. Lee Mandel himself told the courtroom that it was crazy for anyone to suggest that Nadera had intentions of killing Jaquinn when she so lovingly took him to her home and agreed to care for him. Lee went on to ask the jury to not allow whatever sympathy they had for Jaquinn cause them to ignore the evidence that was lacking against her. What? She's guilty. Shut up. In fact, in videotaped testimony, another neighbor came forward, and that neighbor reaffirmed what the previous neighbors said. They talked about how they sent text messages to police, they sent text messages to the landlord, they said that they would hear lashes, whips, whipping noises, yelling, crying, and a combination of all of them. The neighbor confirmed that the abuse happened at least 4 times a week and that it would wake them up in the middle of the night, again with loud music. In the trial itself, Marcus testified that he didn't really touch Jaquinn and it was Nadera that did it all. But eventually in December 2013, Nadera, who was 25, was sentenced to up to 57 years in prison for 3rd-degree murder. Judge Barbara McDermott stated that 99 out of 100 Philadelphia citizens would agree that what Nadera done was pure evil. Marcus himself pled guilty to 3rd-degree murder, and he was sentenced to 10 to 20 years in prison. And given the horrific nature of this crime, longtime social workers prompted an investigation of the Department of Human Services. According to the report, the DHS missed several visits to go and see the child to see if the child is okay. You see, the report alleges that timely visits could have uncovered the abuse that was occurring. And in the trial, there was a slight twist. You see, police officer Teresa Sanchez testified, and she struggled with emotion as she told the jury that she wished that she saved Jaquinn. Because what's interesting is that she was out one day with her partner, and she actually saw Nadera pushing Jaquinn in a stroller in a pharmacy. This was just days before the boy's death. And on that afternoon, Jaquinn's unkempt appearance caught her eye. His bushy hair was way too long for the warm weather, and he seemed almost overdressed in his jeans and long sleeve shirt. He was wearing only one shoe, and his left foot was covered in a sock and looked swollen. Teresa walked over to Nadera and asked her about a burn mark, and Nadera said, "Oh, he's only getting these things, it's nothing." You see, Teresa, she used her police mind and she could tell, wait, something's not right. And in court, Teresa said she radioed for a supervisor, but the supervisor was busy. She then called the DHS numerous times. Unfortunately, nobody answered. She left a message with the agency, then gave Nadera the address of a barber who would cut Jaquinn's hair for free. She also took Nadera's number and address so she could check up and make sure that Jaquinn got this haircut. Teresa said that she called Nadera about 9 times that same day to see if it had been done, but she didn't physically go to Chestnut Street. When Teresa returned to work 3 days later, she learned that the boy was in hospital, brain dead, and she said that she has to live forever with this guilt. She said, "It made me feel that I could have done a whole lot more," but what she didn't know was that the DHS had already failed to help Jaquinn months before she saw him. According to city and state reports and interviews with Jaquinn's mother, Ashley, the DHS had known months before that Jaquinn was missing and living somewhere with Nadera, but they didn't look for him or take the simple step of telling police that maybe he's in danger. That was a violation of DHS policy and a missed opportunity. A DHS manager had learned that Jaquinn was unaccounted for while investigating a report of neglect made against Indira. During that investigation, the biological mother, Ashley, told DHS that she had given the child to Jaquinn when she moved into a homeless shelter. Ashley said, "I needed help. I thought she was our friend, so I gave him to her." Ashley, according to the reports and interviews, told the DHS she was no longer in contact with Nadera after a dispute. She didn't know a specific address, she said, but knew that they lived on Chestnut Street. This story makes me so angry. Jaquinn, I am so sorry. We failed you. And while Nadera is still in jail, I think last year Marcus was up for parole, and from what I can see, he's still in prison, so his parole would have been rejected, which is a good thing. Thank you for watching.